There is a moment almost every Christian has lived through without naming it. You wake up. Your hand reaches for your phone before it reaches for your Bible. You start solving today's problems before you have even asked God if He has a different plan for today. By the time you finally pray, the day has already been given its first instructions, and they did not come from heaven. Now imagine a different version of that same morning, repeated for 45 days in a row. Not a perfect version. Not a religious performance. Just one decision made daily. God gets the first place before anything else gets a vote. Jesus said it plainly in Matthew 6 verse 33. But seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Most people read that verse and stop at the blessing. Few people stop at the word that makes the blessing possible. First, not eventually, not after you've fixed your life. First, today I want to walk you through what actually happens biblically and practically when someone commits to putting God first every day for the next 45 days. Not as a New Year's resolution that fades by February. As a daily decision, repeated until it becomes who you are. Thing 1. Putting God first restores your firstfruits. In the Old Testament, before Israel ever harvested a guaranteed crop, they were commanded to bring the firstfruits, the very first portion, to God, before they knew how much the rest of the harvest would even yield. Proverbs 3 verses 9 to 10 says, Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the firstfruits of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled with plenty, and your vats will brim over with new wine. That is not a formula for getting rich. It is a principle about order. God was never asking for what was left over. He was asking for what came first before the outcome was even known. Most of us live in reverse. We give God the leftovers of our time, the leftovers of our attention, the leftovers of our energy, after the day has already taken the best of us. And then we wonder why our spiritual life feels thin. It is not because God withheld blessing. It is because we never brought Him the firstfruits. When you commit to 45 days of giving God the first portion of your morning, your thoughts, your decisions, something ancient and forgotten begins to reactivate. You are no longer offering God your exhaustion. You are offering Him your harvest before it is even gathered. Thing 2, putting God first changes what you actually choose to give your attention to. There is a story in Luke 10 that gets misread constantly. Martha was working hard, serving, doing everything that needed to be done in that house. Mary sat at Jesus' feet and simply listened. When Martha complained, Jesus did not criticize her work. He said something far more pointed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Notice the word chosen. Mary's posture was not an accident or a personality trait. It was a daily choice to put presence before productivity. Most people assume their distraction is just modern life, too many notifications, too much noise. But the truth is older than smartphones. Every generation has had a Martha problem. Urgent things competing for the seat that belongs to God alone. When you put God first for 45 days, you are not adding one more task to an already full life. You are reclaiming the seat at His feet that something else has been quietly occupying. And what Jesus said about Mary is still true. What you choose in those first moments will not be taken away from you, even on the days everything else falls apart. Thing 3, putting God first will expose the altars you didn't know you built. This is the part nobody enjoys talking about, but it is also where the deepest freedom happens. In Judges chapter 6, before God could use Gideon to deliver Israel, He gave him one instruction first. Tear down your father's altar to Baal, and build an altar to me in its place. Not add an altar. Tear down the old one first. Gideon could not carry 2 altars at once, and neither can you. When you genuinely put God first, you do not just add devotion to your existing life. You start discovering altars you built without realizing it. An altar to comfort, an altar to approval, an altar to control, an altar to a relationship you have quietly made your source of security. Exodus 20 verse 3 says it as the very first command God gave at Sinai. You shall have no other gods before me. Not beside me, before me in the place of priority. The 45 days will not feel comfortable every day, because God does not just want a seat in your life. He wants the altar cleared. But what gets exposed in that process is not meant to shame you. It is meant to free you from carrying gods that were never strong enough to hold you in the first place. If something in this video has already named a hidden altar in your own life, brother, sister, take a moment right now and write in the comments, "Lord, you are first for the next 45 days. Let that be a decision, not just a sentence. And if someone in your life needs to hear this today, send it to them before you keep watching, because conviction shared is conviction multiplied. Now let's continue, because what happens next goes deeper than habits. It reaches your identity. Thing 4, putting God first rebuilds your identity before your performance does. Here is something most people never notice about the baptism of Jesus. In Mark chapter 1, the moment Jesus comes up out of the water, before he has preached a single sermon, healed a single person, or performed a single miracle, the Father speaks from heaven. "You are my Son, whom I love. With you I am well pleased." Read that timeline carefully. The affirmation came before the ministry, not after it. His identity as beloved was settled before his work began, not earned by it. Most of us live the exact opposite pattern. We try to perform our way into feeling beloved, hoping enough achievement will finally quiet the question of whether we are enough. When you put God first daily, something in that order gets corrected. You stop starting your day by trying to prove your worth and start your day by remembering it was already spoken over you. That single shift changes the emotional weight of everything you do for the rest of the day, because you are no longer working to become loved. You are working from a place of already being loved. Thing 5, putting God first deepens roots you cannot see, until the drought comes and they're the only thing holding you up. This is the part that will not show up on day 3, or day 12, or maybe even day 30. But it is the most important thing on this list. Jeremiah 17 verses 7 to 8 paints a picture I think about often. "Blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. They will be like a tree planted by the water that sends out its roots by the stream. It does not fear when heat comes. Its leaves are always green. It has no worries in a year of drought and never fails to bear fruit." Notice what the tree is not promised. It is not promised a life without heat or without drought. It is promised roots deep enough that the drought does not determine whether it survives. Most people evaluate whether putting God first is working by looking at their leaves, their circumstances, their visible results. But the real work for 45 days is happening underground, in the roots where you cannot see it and where it cannot be rushed. Some days will feel like nothing is changing. That is not failure. That is root growth. And root growth only shows its value the day the drought finally comes. The day a real storm hits your life, and you realize you are still standing, not because the storm was small, but because something underneath you had already grown deep enough to hold. So here is what actually happens over 45 days of putting God first. Your first fruits get restored before the outcome is even known. Your attention returns to the seat that was always meant to be God's. The altars you did not know you built get exposed and finally torn down. Your identity stops being built by performance and starts being built by belovedness. And roots grow deep enough underground that no drought can move you, even on the day you least expect one. None of this requires perfection on day 1. It requires the same decision Gideon made, the same posture Mary chose, the same trust Abraham walked in. Just today, give God the first place. Then tomorrow, do it again. For 45 days and then for the rest of your life. If this message has stirred something true in you today, write in the comments, "Lord, you have my first place." And let it be more than words typed on a screen. And if you know someone whose roots need to grow deeper before their next drought arrives, share this video with them now, because they may not get a better moment than this one. Don't forget to subscribe to Bible Truth Message so we can keep growing together in biblical wisdom every single day. God bless you deeply, my brother, my sister. Until next time.